Hi, today I want to talk about sleep. I think a lot of people actually underestimate how important sleep is. It's one of these things where people, even in the old days, and maybe that's not that long ago, people used to be proud of how little they were sleeping. But the reality is actually, a lot of research is showing us that we need our sleep. We need somewhere between 7 and 8, 7 to 9, depending on the person. Actually, in reality, only about 5% of the population can handle only like 6 hours sleep. But the reality is we all need that 7 to 8 hours sleep. If we don't get our sleep, we don't do well, actually. It affects our moods, it affects our ability to focus, it affects our ability to be productive. So we need to take sleep seriously. And I think, one of the greatest challenges to sleep these days is actually the technology around us. I was reading a very interesting article that talked about the fact that the invention of light bulbs, has been a major breakthrough that has allowed human beings to stay up all hours. But on the other side, it's affected our sleep. Because if you think, not so long ago, or let's just say sometime before the light bulb, people will be out. When it gets dark, they get in, they maybe have some lanterns, some torches, but this way where you have bright lights that can allow you to do focused, detailed work, it just wasn't there. The reality is this has affected our sleep rhythms. This technology has also affected us with, if you think about iPads and stuff like that, mobile phones, computers, with the screens in our faces, especially the blue light from screens. Blue light affects our sleep because actually it inhibits the production of melatonin that is really important in our sleep. So the world today and technology and light and everything has affected our sleep. The busyness of life means some people are sacrificing sleep in order to work hard, hoping they're being more productive, but the reality is actually they're not more productive. So, what are some of the things that I think is really important about sleep? Firstly, I'd just like to say, if you want some really great inspiration, some great books to read and great articles to read, I would like to recommend Dr. Michael Bruce, also known as the Sleep Doctor. He's got a great blog. Lots of great articles come out all the time. He's always sending out new research. That's where I weekly getting new information and new knowledge about sleep. Then there's also a great book I read at one point, The Sleep Revolution by Arianna Huffington. I've read a couple of other books, but I think those books, these two people, I think they've done a pretty good job. Some of the other guys have done a great job too, but I particularly like those two people. So, what are some of the important tips I can give about sleep today? One of the things I've been experimenting with myself is going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time pretty much every day. And it's easier in the summer, especially since the light is excellent for setting your body clock going and your circadian rhythms, etc. It's harder in the winter when there is no light. But actually my wife and I use one of these alarm clocks that simulate dawn and get brighter and brighter in the morning. So that helps a lot. But having the same bedtime every day is great. Having the same wake-up time, great. It helps to just keep a good rhythm. Another thing I think is really important is cutting out the screens at least an hour before bed, ideally maybe a little bit longer. But a lot of people think it's enough for some of these programs that can reduce the blue light from the screen, etc. It helps a little, but it's not quite enough. But that'll be one thing I would work on if I were you. Dr. Michael Bruce has a wonderful way that helps me remember a lot of the time what's important to make sure that I have a good night's sleep. He just uses the 5 senses in one of his articles to describe, and I'll just give a few highlights here. For example, he says, if you think about your sight, of course, screens producing blue light, that's really important to reduce them, but also just not having any lights in the bedroom that are going to disturb you. If you think about your ears and sound, of course, it makes sense. No loud noises or weird noises out there. Some people use white noise that helps them, and that's actually a good idea and works really well for some people. But generally, make sure there's no sounds that are going to disturb you, you know. One of the things that I've practiced for a while now is my mobile phone is never in the bedroom, because you never know when some notification or one thing or the other is going to send that phone either beeping or vibrating on the floor. But I've not had my mobile in my phone for over a year now. I think almost 2 years. I can't remember when I started. It's that long ago. I just said it should be out there. I encourage everyone in my family. In fact, I insist on it with my kids. I even bought a multi-adapter so we can all plug our mobile phones in the living room away from our sleep. Smell. Well, if you think about the nose, good ventilation in the room. Sometimes they say open the room door or windows and let air in for about 10 minutes before, or 5 or 10 minutes, just to get some fresh air in, because fresh air makes a big difference. But also weird smells can affect your sleep too, because our sense of smell is so strong. Touch. Let's think a lot about temperature, that it needs to be the right temperature, you know, and some people, again, what kind of sheets they're sleeping on can make a big difference for us. But I know that, for example, our room has to be a little bit cold. Not full on cold like some of my relatives here in Denmark, but a little bit on the chillier side. I do well with. I can very easily get dehydrated and get headaches if the room is too hot. A nice cool temperature. They say men actually generally need a cooler temperature than women, but generally the body actually drops a couple of degrees or so, I can't remember exactly, in temperature at night. So it's good for the room not to be too hot. What have you got left? You've got eyes, nose, ears, touch. Well, I think that's enough anyway. So maybe one more. Taste, of course. I forgot about that. But taste is exactly, if we think about the mouth, again, if you drink too much just before bed, I'm just talking water here, then you're going to have to get up in the night to pee. But especially alcohol, they recommend you stop drinking a few hours before bed. I think I've read one recommendation, up to 4 hours before bed, you should really stop taking in alcohol, because alcohol affects your sleep negatively, actually. Many people think, oh, but a glass of wine helps me fall asleep at night. But actually, it affects the quality of your sleep, because good sleep should go through all the right phases of deep sleep and light sleep and the REM sleep and all that 4 or 5 times a night. And alcohol just messes up with that rhythm. So it's good to have as much of the alcohol out of your system as possible. Again, I just remember another thing that's important, exercise. I've read mixed reports, but I trust Dr. Michael Bruce, who recommends that actually about 3 hours before bed, we should have finished all our exercises. And I noticed, especially with me, it can take such a long time for my pulse to go back to normal after I've really had done a hard exercise session. Exercise is great for our sleep, especially if you exercise in the morning. That sets your day rhythm and your body clock going in the right way, etc. Actually, that will give you a good sleep at night. But exercise too close to bedtime is not really recommended. So those are some great ideas about what can help you with sleep. Like I said, take sleep seriously. It's good both for your mental health and your physical health. And actually what is required a lot of times is not that huge. Just small changes to your lifestyle. A bedtime routine where you can wind down with softer lighting or keeping your mobile phone out of your bedroom. All these kind of very simple tricks actually can help improve your quality of sleep, which will result in better productivity and better well-being, generally speaking. Hope that was helpful. Like I said, if you want some inspiration, Dr. Michael Bruce's newsletter is fantastic. Books like The Sleep Revolution by Arianna Huffington, and there's lots of good articles and good books out there that can be read. So sleep well.